Now, where the issue comes into play is who's not a broker? Okay, Google is not a broker. And so now we have a sponsored real estate advertisement showing up on a non-brokerage website from a listing agent that did not approve the advertising, which is like a direct violation of IDX rules. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, and that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Google showing property listings in their search results. Shawn, it is Thursday, December 18th. How is your Thursday, the 18th, going?
Oh, man, it's that time of year, Matt. I think you can hear we're both sick.
You got a little bug. I got a little bug.
Different bugs. It's really close to the holidays, and so I really got to get my shopping done. And I've been, I was at my brother's for a long weekend, taking care of him. I got back, I got sick, and I have to do my Christmas shopping. So that's what's on my mind right now. Things are good though. I've got a lot of properties on the horizon. They're going to be coming up, and I'm more than I would say than I've ever had coming into the new year. So it's going to be a strong listing side in 2026.
Are they all going to come on around the same time?
There's some scattered. We're going to be, we're starting in the second weekend of January with 2 properties, and then I've got probably about 4 or 5 more that'll be staggered March, April timeframe. So I think a lot of people are targeting that spring market, but this is when they start reaching out.
When you have your real estate listings, maybe buyers will find them on Google.
Maybe.
Shawn. Okay, so last Friday, so this is now, I guess, the second week of December, Google began testing a new feature that showcases detailed property listings within the Google search results, potentially reshaping how buyers first encounter homes for sale. So instead of linking out to third-party listing sites, the experiment, the test, presented users with property information, including photos, pricing, basic property details, and location information, all without leaving the search page. So you go ahead and, schedule a tour, contact the agent, do everything that a portal like Zillow has to offer, all within Google. Now, this is a targeted experiment. It's only available on mobile. I've tried to replicate the searches many times throughout the past couple days, and I wasn't able to pull it up. But basically, if you were to Google, for example, homes for sale Chicago, homes for sale Washington, D.C., you would see in the sponsored location of Google, so at the very top of the page, a couple different, kind of like a carousel of homes for you to search through and then click request a tour. And then below that, you have the Zillow links. It's kind of circumnavigating Zillow. So, Shawn, what are your initial thoughts on listings showing up, I guess, kind of natively, but also sponsored, like natively inside of Google?
Yeah, this is hard for me to get my head around for a while, and I was trying to think, why are they doing this? Why would they want to do this? Because let's find, first of all, what is Google? It's a search page that everybody is trying to get on the top levels of searches. So how are they doing that? It's either naturally, which is very, very difficult to do. Like, you're competing against the Zillows, the Realtor.coms, the Homes.com. Those are going to be your top 3-4 platforms, and then all the brokerages below that, whoever's doing their analytics on their websites the best. And then you've got the side of who's paying for these listings. So, your sponsored sites. And I've done this personally. I've done both. I've tried to get the analytics of my website up, and I've hired people to do that and spent thousands and thousands of dollars to try to do it. And they're like, dude, it's virtually impossible. You have to compete with so many millions and millions of dollars that these websites are spending. It's hard. And so I honestly hired this company, and I was just like, try to get me up on the Arlington page, right? So if somebody searches Arlington real estate, that mine would be on the top. They're like, we thought this was going to be easy. Arlington is very difficult because it's like a major city, right? It's a small city, but it's like a major city in trying to navigate that. And so we ended up pulling the plug on it because it was just too hard. Now, the other way you can do it is a sponsored page and just sponsoring. So you'd be in a loop, basically, of people that are paying to be on the sponsored side of Google. So those are how your two things work. Now, what Google is doing is showing these listings up on the top, and I haven't seen this yet either. I was trying to figure out, all right, how is this working? But apparently they're going to be in cahoots with two other websites or something, companies, to bring these. So it's not going to be through Google or through Zillow. It's not going to be through Realtor.com. It's going to be through two other entities, which is basically cutting out Zillow and all the big dogs now. So it's like, all right, well, why are they doing this? Are they not making any money off of these websites anyways, because it's all about an algorithm and it's on their websites? So I'm trying to figure out what's the big play here. What's Google's play here? Maybe you can answer that better than I can.
What's the big play? I mean, how much money does Zillow make off of referral fees?
Yeah.
That's the play. Shawn, do you know what a paper broker is?
Paper broker, no.
In real estate, a paper broker is a company or individual who holds a broker's license primarily to access property listing feeds, such as the MLS, but does not provide traditional full-service brokerage to services to clients.
So that would be like a Zillow.
So that would be like a Zillow, where they're like, hey, we are a brokerage, and they're basically like a wholesaler. Like you think about wholesaling in real estate. I buy Shawn's house, and then I go under contract, and I flip that contract to one of my buddies. Zillow operates the same way. They essentially buy the lead, and then they flip that lead to someone else, to a real estate broker, and then that broker pays Zillow an exorbitant amount of fees. So much. So that is what a paper broker is. That is what Zillow is. Now, this appears to be on Zillow a partnership with Come Home by HouseCanary, and property results are not supplied or sponsored by listing agents or brokers. So what's going on is that these homes are being showcased in the sponsored results page. So someone is putting money behind these to show up higher than, you writing a blog about Arlington and trying to, rank high in the native results. Someone is going in from Come Home by HouseCanary for the sponsored results. Now, the listing agents and the brokers, they're not the ones doing this, right? It's not like I'm promoting my own listing. It's through this other brokerage, because I believe Come Home or HouseCanary, one of those is also like a paper brokerage type of deal. Now, where the issue comes into play is who's not a broker? Okay, Google is not a broker. And so now we have a sponsored real estate advertisement showing up on a non-brokerage website from a listing agent that did not approve the advertising, which is like a direct violation of IDX rules. This seems like maybe a blatant IDX violation. I mean, IDX is simply the data feed of how MLSs exist. Shawn has a brokerage. If I had a brokerage, each have listings, and we agree, hey, we can showcase each other's listings on each other's websites. But nowhere does it say that you can take the third-party information, put it on another site, and put advertising dollars behind it without broker approval. That is a violation. What are your thoughts on that?
Is that actually what it is? Is an ad, or is it that HouseCanary, there's a partnership there and it's not an ad?
A partnership between who?
Between Google. So does Google own a part of HouseCanary?
An ad, a partnership.
Well, that's the thing, is like, it makes a difference, I think, if Google owns this and they're putting these up there through HouseCanary and it's not a paid thing. I don't know.
It's under the sponsored results.
It's under the sponsored results. This is getting into, you have to be careful on the IDX things and the feeds. And hey, if you're taking my listing and you're advertising my listing, which is mine, you can't do that, right? You can show it on your platform, but you can't advertise it. So somehow they've got to get around that as not a sponsored thing. And that's where I was confused, because if they're just showing it at the top on a website, then that's fine, right? It's just search results. But if it's in the paid platform, paid section, that's where they can get into trouble.
It's a paid section. Yeah. Like, it literally says sponsored, and then it has the listings that are up there.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot different. I don't know how they're doing that.
Well, it was a very targeted experiment.
Yeah.
The experiment may be done for all that we know. HouseCanary, in a LinkedIn post, claims that they have been in contact with all of the MLSs that they've been working with. And Of course, the MLSs say they've never, been in contact with HouseCanary. They've never, never reached out or whatnot. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy on who's doing what and what's allowed right now. Because it'd be one thing if Google was creating their own platform, right? Because, I mean, how often has someone said, hey, why doesn't Amazon just get into the real estate game? Let's just make it the Amazon of real estate. One click, you can buy a house, you can do all the things. Why doesn't Google do that? That would be a great thing for the Google machine to do. I mean, they crush it at every single thing that they do. Their Google Maps kind of fell off a little bit, and Apple Maps did get a little bit better. But by and large, I mean, they've got some great operations over at Google. It would make sense for them to create their own native real estate platform and to capitalize on going around Zillow, because Zillow just makes all of the money in the world. That basically eliminates Zillow's moat. But this is not that. This is Zillow. You say partnering. I mean, the partnership is a company paying Zillow. A company paying Google. That is the partnership. That is how the sponsored ad works. They are partnering with these other paper brokers to show these sponsored listings without listing agent approval. That's what that looks like to me.
I think the future of this is what I see this going is, all right, this was an experiment, right? We're going to experiment with HouseCanary to see how this works and how many people click on this and how much traffic we're going to get on this. And then they're going to think, all right, well, is this worth the investment? So Google is just going to say, all right, we've got billions of dollars. Let's go buy HouseCanary. And we're done, right? Now we can just start creating our own thing. So I think their experiment was, does this make sense for the future? Can we or should we buy a different platform, make our own platform, and take everything away from everybody else as far as a real estate kind of thing goes? That could be the play, right? I don't see why you would do it any other way. They're thinking, how do we then grasp it? And you brought up a great point. And the funny thing is, when you were talking Google and this thing, I was thinking Amazon for some reason. I was instantly going to the Amazon and how Amazon has done this over and over and over again to so many different areas of our life, right? I mean, Amazon Music, Amazon, whatever, it's video. Every section of our life has been taken over by Amazon. And Google is saying, well, we need to do the same thing. So how do we tackle from an Amazon standpoint? And that's by buying a feed, buying a company, easy enough, and then starting it just like that. So this is probably their experiment to say, does this make sense to spend this much money?
Wouldn't Google still need to be have a broker's license if it goes to another website?
I mean, if you purchase the website, you're purchasing the company. The company already has that license, I would say, right? And so they don't have to. So you would just purchase the company and everything that comes along with it, and then boom, you've got the platform. And then what happens, right? And how does Zillow make all their money? They're making their money off of real estate agents paying exorbitant fees to try to get the leads, or just going straight to them and getting a referral fee. It's a huge business. And this is what, from the day one that I've always talked about Zillow, I hated it. And we can go into that some other time because I've gone into it so many times. But they didn't disclose, and that's why they're in trouble now. They didn't disclose how they were getting their money. There's so much money in this. And it's you think that the real estate agents are making all the money. Man, half these agents have to pay 50% or 40% or whatever of their commission back to Zillow, back to certain companies. It's bull. So don't think the real estate agents are making all the money. There's a lot of back end deals that have to go on, which in my opinion should be disclosed. And
a lot of people are saying that is artificially keeping real estate commissions and real estate prices higher because consumers don't realize that 60% of the commission goes back to Zillow.
Yeah, and that could be an argument. But, for me, I never take these leads because of that. Because I'm not going to run around for 50%. There's no way. That's not worth my time. I'll go get the leads that I can get by paying my advertising dollars the right way, and or the way I think is the right way, not pay that huge amount every time. So, it's all about the consumer. It's all about the lead. It's all about where you're getting that lead and how much you're paying for it. And so, I think Google sees a huge opportunity there, and they're like, all right, well, how can we get bigger like Amazon, or take over certain segments of people's lives, and that's how you do it.
And it comes down to, you were saying clicks and leads. It comes down to the first click. It comes down to where are people starting their search? Where are they clicking first? I think most people are pulling out their phone and they're pulling up Zillow. I don't think many people are going on to Google and typing homes for sale Denver and starting their search that way. Maybe maybe they are. I'm sure if I looked at like the CPM for that keyword, it would be like $25 or something like that, where you got to pay $25 every time someone clicks on your advertisement. But Google's trying to control the first click. And if they can control staying in the Google platform versus someone going externally to Zillow, I mean, that is worth
so much money,
like tens of millions of dollars.
It's so much. It's called top of funnel, right? The top of the funnel, you think of a lead source. Top of funnel is the first interaction when somebody's starting to look at homes, right? And then you narrow them down to the bottom of the funnel when the lead actually purchases. So it's a long trajectory down to the actual purchase. But, if you can get them at the top and then follow them the whole way through. And the thing is, you have to start somewhere, right? Everybody has started somewhere. So Google's like, all right, we got to start somewhere. Let's see if we can experiment to get them from the top of the funnel. How do we do that? All right, well, a simple Google search. So what if it becomes that easy to just say, all right, I don't have to go on Zillow. I don't have to put in my search criteria. I just say, hey, find me homes, 3-bedroom homes into your freaking phone, right? And you have Google as your search thing in your phone. Find me a 3-bedroom homes near me under $1 million. Boom. Mm-hmm. And then you're done. It's done. You don't have to do anything else. And I know that I'm sure Zillow is going, but you don't even have to go to Zillow. You don't have to go to a website because your phone's already programmed to use Google, right? And so that's top of the funnel. That is just, saying, hey, we've got you. No one else can compete with that because we're already built into your phone unless you change your search bar or whatever. Search.
I still think they need to figure out this whole sponsored section, because advertising a broker's listing without their consent is strictly forbidden. So that's a big no-no for me. Partnering with a company and a website that no one has ever heard about, maybe they're just doing that to understand how all this works, and maybe they can build out their own platform. But if you're going head-to-head against Zillow, I mean, you're also going head-to-head against Compass. You're also going head-to-head against, maybe like a lot of MLSs as well. And so this would be a massive undertaking for Google, and maybe they're just experimenting, seeing what happens, and moving on with their life, or maybe this is something bigger.
I think the future would be that it's not the sponsored section. They were just trying this out for now. Maybe that's the way they had to do it right now, but the future would be just at the top, and you'd still have your sponsored section. But at the same time, they're biting the hand that feeds, right? So like, a lot of brokers, and that's how they're making their advertising dollars, is through Google search and getting you up on top. But where's the money? Where's the big money? The big money is in the consumer. The consumer's purchasing, right? We're all after that consumer. And so that's where they're thinking, wow, all right, look at how much Zillow is making. Look how much they're making. Okay, well, how do we take that? How do we take it? And it's a war, right? It's a war between companies. And soon enough, somebody's going to win. And I think Google, Zillow right now is under attack in so many different ways. They promised certain things and they went away from their promises, and people got pissed. And so now there's an opportunity, right? There's an opportunity for somebody else to take over while they're getting wounded and they're getting stabbed a million times. Google silently, well, not silently, but they're strategizing on how do we take over.
Zillow went away from their promises and someone got pissed. What do you mean by that?
What I mean was they said at the beginning that, hey, just supply us a feed. We supplied a feed. MLS supplied a feed.
Okay, so Zillow, they're making money off of brokers. A lot of the top teams that use Zillow love Zillow. I don't think they're upset.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying what Zillow said is we will never become a brokerage, right? We're just going to rely on the feed of the MLS. Can we get the feed? Thank you. All right. And our MLSs gave them the feed. But now, then what did they do? They went and got their brokerage license, right?
So who's upset?
So I would say, I would be upset, right? That
don't use Zillow?
No, the brokerages. So think about this. You have just said that you've just become the biggest portal of real estate because we gave you the information. We gave you the MLS feed. Why did they do that? I don't know. I don't know why you would ever do that. But you gave the MLS feed of all of the stuff that we worked for to get, okay? The agents get this information because we are the front lines of it, signing listing agreements, doing our advertising, and then we're putting on a platform for free, right? We're giving all this great information to a company for free. Or maybe they do pay a little bit. I don't know. I don't know how that works on the MLS's side, right? But the MLSs have to supply the feed to Zillow. How Zillow could get away around the reliance of the MLSs feeding them is to get their broker's license. They said they would never do that, but then they started getting their broker's license in different states. So then they were afforded that for free because they're now a brokerage, right? And so that's where I'm saying that they double-crossed in what their original intention was. And as they grow, they're like, we don't care. We're now number one, right?
Do you think if we called our broker and asked him, he would be upset about Zillow?
No, I'm not. I don't think anybody like that is upset. But it's just the underlying thought of what was Zillow say they were going to do at first, and now what are they doing? Not only that, their disclosure laws, everything about that, it just, it pisses me off. Maybe it's just me that's mad. I don't know.
So, I mean, that could come into play in 2026 now that consumers are becoming more interested in who's getting paid in the real estate transaction, because you may just see one line on, the closing statement. How does that work? If you're paying Zillow like 62% of the transaction, is there a Zillow line on the closing statement, or does that happen outside of
No one ever knows. Have you ever seen a Zillow line on a settlement statement? Have you ever seen a referral out to another agency on a settlement statement? You have not. Well, sometimes you could. But there's referrals that we refer people out and it's not disclosed. And some people are saying, well, this needs to be disclosed. And I think it should be, right? If we have to pay another brokerage because you referred somebody to us, it's a referral fee. We get paid. If I referred something out to somebody, I would get paid.
I think there's like a term for that. It's like back kick.
It's a kickback.
It's a kickback. That's what it is. It's a kickback.
No one ever knows how Zillow gets paid because it's never shown, except with the people that are paying Zillow. And so maybe that's why Zillow started going, well, hey, you're just going to pay me monthly and then we'll feed you, instead of, hey, give me a piece of the deal, right? And so because, those disclosure laws are getting harder and harder on them, they said, all right, well, listen, we don't want to have to do that and show things on the settlement statements that Zillow's making this. Why don't we just do it to a monthly thing and, keep paying us monthly and whatever, and we'll supply you leads. I've never used Zillow, so I don't know how the back end works. I've heard horror stories. I've heard things that, their calls are taped. They're analyzed by AI. You have to say the certain things. You have to do the certain things. And if you don't get the leads.
It sounds like quality assurance.
Quality assurance? I don't know about that. I mean, it's probably control, right? You have to say this, this, and this.
Well, maybe they know the best ways to close the deal.
Maybe, but maybe they're also trying to keep the deal within their circle, which is their Zillow. Who do they own as far as their lending?
I mean, there's Zillow Home Loans.
There you go.
That's
Zillow Home Loans. So that's what I've heard, that they're trying to keep, keep the Zillow Home Loans doing the loan. So they want all aspects of the deal. That's just what I've heard.
Do you blame them for wanting all aspects of the deal?
I don't blame them, but that's the problem with disclosures. If you are going after a lead and you're giving them to a person, an agent that is not disclosing how they got that lead or what they're paying for that lead, and then you're pushing them to use a lender that is owned by Zillow, but you have no skin in the game. Well, your skin in the game is that you're not going to get a lead if you don't push the lender on. That could be a problem.
Hey, get that affiliated business arrangement signed and everything's gravy, baby.
Yeah, this is crazy stuff. I'm not positive, but that's what I've heard through the grapevine. So, that's what was going on. And so that's illegal. You can't do that kind of thing. There's laws against that.
Well, a lot of the biggest real estate teams, biggest by like volume number of deals, they use Zillow. And I'm sure Zillow loves them, and I'm sure... Well, I don't know if
it works.
It
works, right? Like there's the biggest teams around here that are doing this. They're huge. They are doing hundreds and hundreds of transactions every year, thousands, but they're paying. If they're doing thousands or hundreds and hundreds, they're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get those leads.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not cheap.
There are teams paying like $50,000 a month to Zillow. So why not pay that to Google instead?
Right. That's what Google's saying. There's a big money in this, and so if we can get top of funnel and we can get you to funnel straight down to the real estate agent, that's where the money is, and that's where they're going to go.
Well,
that's my opinion.
2026 is shaping up to be a spicy one with the portal wars going on, with now Google throwing its hat into the ring.
Yes.
Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think Google is actually going to enter the portal wars, or do you think this was just a flash in the pan to get everyone hot and bothered and they were just experimenting? So let us know your thoughts. For Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.